Hey y'all, welcome to Fitting and Homemaking. If you're new here, my name is Sarah. Today's video is a house reset. I almost get to the whole house in this. I am not able to get to the main bathroom, and then I also had some cardboard, and by some I mean a lot of cardboard that I wanted to break down on our back porch. You'll see in a little bit on here that we have some new bunk beds for our kids instead of a toddler bed and a crib. So we needed the bed frame and mattresses and all of that kind of good stuff. So there was a lot of cardboard involved in that. Anyhow, it feels like I do one of these house resets about once a month, which unfortunately means the whole house only gets dusted once a month. I've talked about before how that's not my favorite thing to do. It was my assigned Saturday big chore that I did while growing up. So my parents' house was dusted weekly when I was growing up, but mine is not. I do throughout the month pretty much. I guess my SOP, my standard operating procedure for the most part is I tidy because I need things to be tidy. I can't concentrate when there's visual clutter, and I do work from home a couple days a week. This summer I'll be working from home 4 days a week because I think I mentioned in a different video that the building that I work in is going to be shut down because they are upgrading the electrical grid. So they can't let people in the building when there's no power in the building. Yeah, so normally I tidy and spot clean, and that keeps us functional and the visual clutter on a day-to-day basis to a minimum. Of course, I have my areas that I need to declutter, but for the most part, it works okay for us. And we just kind of put out fires as we go. But I do like to do these house resets, try to do them once a month where I know that I'm gonna hit, if not every single room in the house, the bulk of the house. And everything's gonna be dusted, everything's gonna be, if there's crayons on furniture, if there's spots that need to be wiped up, that's gonna happen. I'm gonna either vacuum or sweep and just get all the surfaces really cleaned off. This day you can also see I was quite behind on getting my laundry put up. Usually I do the laundry and just kind of dump it all on my bed. Sometimes I will do my kids' stuff. I'll put my kids' stuff up. I'll try to do that before they get home from daycare. I generally do the laundry on the days that I work from home just throughout the day. But I don't want to waste time folding it and putting it up, so I just dump it on my bed and tend to take care of it that night or the night after. And you can see here that I definitely did not do that. So I started off the video just by putting in a load of wash. And this is just left over from earlier in the week when I did not get a chance to handle this stuff. But this day, I don't know if I've ever worn shorts on this channel, but the weather here has been a little bit crazy. So we're still in the pollinating as I'm recording this voiceover. And but we've had some rain showers, and the temperature is kind of more of what I would consider typical spring-like temperatures, like in the 60s. I think the high is in the 60s today. This day, when I was doing this cleaning, the high was 87. So it was about 20 degrees higher than our normal temperature, and it was in the mid 80s for quite a few days. And then we just had a rain system come through yesterday, and now it's cooled off. But yeah, usually it has to be like summer weather before I'm wearing shorts. So that's why I'm wearing shorts in this. I hadn't actually taken out, this was the first really hot day, so I hadn't taken my shorts out of the storage that I have them in on my bedroom closet shelf. I actually did that the next day. So I just had my athletic shorts to choose from in my dresser, because sometimes I'll wear those as jammies, or I should be wearing them as exercise, but not as exercise, as if putting them on was, an athletic feat or something, but while doing exercise, because I should be in my strength training part of life, but I'm just not, to be perfectly honest. I want to be, but it's just kind of one more thing to add to the pile. So it's not happening right now. If you have any good strength training programs that are online, I tend to stick with programs and challenges much better than just, oh, here's this one workout to follow. So definitely go down to the comments below and suggest those for me, because I would like to start running again later this year. But I am in my 40s now, and I need to do some strength training before I jump right back into running. Otherwise, I will hurt my old, decrepit self. Anyhow, totally off topic. But yeah, it was really hot this day. All right, y'all, completely new topic because, well, you didn't have much of a pause. I did. Usually I try to do these voiceovers all in one sitting, but Max started barking super loudly and I had to pause. And then of course the video program started processing the, 5.5 minutes of audio that I'd recorded thus far. And when it does that, it doesn't do really well at other things. So I took a pause and I went and I made some pico for tonight's black bean tacos that we're going to be having. So now we have fresh pico de gallo, which is going to be fantastic. We haven't really taken the trouble to make it, and we used to make that all the time. When we had taco night, we used to kind of go all out. My husband would make the tortillas, either corn or flour tortillas by hand, and we would have freshly made pico and, freshly shredded cheese, and we make our own taco seasoning. So I do have to make taco seasoning later today because we're out. But that's more because a lot of the pre-mixed seasoning mixes, sounds silly to say, but the pre-made seasoning mixes have a lot more salt in them than we're used to eating, and it just doesn't taste as good to us. So we make our own. It's also just way cheaper to do that too. Anyhow, yeah, so in this, I'm almost through this laundry. I don't know if you can see it or not, but in the bottom left corner, there is my laptop, and I may have missed myself walking up to it, but if you ever see me walking off screen a lot or walking up to my computer, I am skipping ads because I'm watching a YouTube video and I'm too cheap to pay for YouTube Premium. It's just not a priority right now, so I can listen to ads even though I find them irritating. But the video that I'm listening to in this is super fascinating. It's about an event that I had never learned about and had a massive significance to the world, essentially. So here we are in the living room. We're tidying and we're gonna dust and vacuum here. But through most of the cleaning, I'm listening to this video. It was through the channel, I think it's called Chronicle, and I'll put all these videos below. But the channel is called Chronicle. This was like a 2-video thing. And then there's another channel called Timeline. And since I'm just doing chores, it kind of like auto-played those 3 videos in a row. But it's all based on this book called Catastrophe, written by David Keyes. And David Keyes is an archaeological correspondent for, I cannot remember which journal, but it's a UK journal. So he's a journalist essentially, but he's been their archaeology correspondent since like the mid-80s, the mid-1980s. So almost as long as I've been alive. Oh my gosh, words are so difficult some days. Anyhow, so he was at a conference, I guess, in the mid-90s, and I almost said 1990s. Like, of course it was the 1990s, Sarah, not the 1890s. But now, since it's in the 2000s, I feel like I have to say 19 whatever. I'm still waiting for that day where some young whippersnapper comes up to me and is just astonished that I was born in the previous century, because not that many of us are around. Um, very much looking forward to that. Anyhow, high hopes for my longevity there. Sorry, I am super scattered today. I've been procrastinating this voiceover, and maybe that is coming through with how scattered my thoughts are. But, so, David Keyes went to this conference in the mid-90s and listened to a talk on dendrochronology, and I can't remember that person's name. Not important to the discussion, though. But he went to this talk, and this person is, studying tree rings and noticed that the tree rings were really abnormally small, around 535 and, subsequent years. So I think 535, 536, and then it got a little bit better, and then it got worse again. But it essentially showed that the trees had no growth. So in the year 536 AD, or if you use the common era dating 536 CE, it was showing that there was frost damage to the trees and that they really didn't have a summer season. And I believe he was looking at the trees in Ireland. I think it was Ireland and not Northern Ireland. But he thought that that was really odd. And then he also noticed that, there were some other records about how those years were just kind of horrific years to live through. So this archaeologist, David Keyes, decided to start researching this, and he found a bunch of other records to confirm, yes, there was a major catastrophe that probably happened in late 535 or early 536 AD, to the point where there was no summer in 536 AD. And it wasn't just something that was, I know it wasn't something that, sorry, I just read a text from my husband and I shouldn't have. My daughter's birthday party is this weekend, so the next video you see will probably be me baking her cake, because the moms always bake the cake for their birthdays. And I've totally lost my train of thought yet again. Talking about dendrochronology. Oh, and then he found other records of, yes, it seems like there are geological records of, and there are records in polar ice caps that this was just like a horrible, horrible time environmentally to live through. And they ended up, the kind of far-reaching effects meant that there was either like an asteroid, a meteor, or a volcanic eruption. Like, those were the three things that could have caused this kind of widespread damage to the Earth. And by widespread damage, I mean a quick change in climate. Like, nothing was blown up or anything. Well, I guess that's not technically true. But not destroyed as in how we think destroyed now, like with deforestation or something like that. So they narrowed it down that it was a volcanic explosion of just massive proportions that happened to the point where it blotted out the sun and it changed the climate very, very quickly. So the global temperature dropped. There was massive drought, because that tends to happen when you have a quick change where the temperature goes down. The sun was blotted out by volcanic ash. So there were days when the sun was only able to shine through all of this ash for a few hours, and then it was, kind of a weaker version of the sun. But there are all these historical written records through Asian empires, countries, whatever you want to call it, through Europe. And even if you look at, I'm going to butcher this name because I can never say it right, and I have it written down so I can phonetically sound it out even, Teotihuacan, and I just butchered that, so apologies. But in in the Americas, like this is the time when that city essentially kind of fell in the subsequent years and people abandoned it. And it was this massive city for the time in the area. So it's interesting that this one huge volcanic eruption can have such far-reaching effects, because it changed the climate so quickly that it entered a drought. Agriculture failed, not just because of the drought, but because when global temperatures change by a significant amount, what grew in your growing zone is no longer going to grow there. A lot of times it'll just be too cold for it to grow. So then, there's more political strife because there's widespread famine. There's a lot of movement of people. There was a group called the Avars, and I think they originated in what's modern day Mongolia, and they made their way all the way to the Balkans. They were a culture that very heavily relied on horses, and the horses couldn't eat like the grasses that were available to them anymore, because their digestive system couldn't handle it. Whereas like the people who had cultures that were more reliant on cattle, since cows have, I want to say 4 stomachs, but I know that's not right. Like a 4-chambered stomach, I guess, would be maybe the more accurate way to say that. They can eat much rougher grasses and brush and still be fine, whereas it's not going to be enough food for the horses. Anyhow, so they talked about stuff like that. They talked about, and this is probably why this video was recommended to me, they talked about how this is the first time where we see the plague occurring. And I thought that this was fascinating that this was the first time. I think the plague was first originated in Africa. I want to say they said the Ethiopia area, but then I looked at the map where they were showing the map, and it seemed like it was a little bit off. So maybe it was like the Ethiopia area at that point in time. I'm not certain. My African history is very, very lacking. But anyhow, they said to that point, the plague wasn't that big of a deal there. Like it didn't spread rampantly because of the temperature in Africa. So how the plague works is it's a bacteria, and it's carried in fleas and lice. So they suck the blood, so the fleas and the lice are infected with the bacteria. And in this film, they only discussed fleas specifically. But the plague bacteria creates a blockage in the flea's digestive system. So what happens is the flea eats, and since there's a blockage in its digestive system, it's actually starving to death. So it tries to eat more and more and more, and it gets so full that it's regurgitating it back into their host. So that regurgitation would be infected with plague, and it would be regurgitating that into rats, cats, dogs, humans, whatever can contract the plague, right? So in this instance, we see it in humans, and when the temperature gets above like 27 to 30 degrees Celsius, that blockage tends not to be able to form because the bacteria don't work as efficiently. And so the bacteria likes cooler temperatures generally. So the flea the blockage doesn't occur, and the flea just passes the bacteria through its digestive system, right? So once the temperature lowered, this became more of an issue. So the temperature lowered, but not enough to kill off the fleas. So usually when it gets really cold, the plague also doesn't spread that well, because the vectors that it's spread by through fleas and lice and that sort of thing, they can't live when it's too cold, right? So I looked it up, and it was like between 10 degrees Celsius and like 27 to 30 degrees Celsius. That's like the bottom end is where like the fleas and the lice start to not be super active, and the top end is where the blockages don't occur in fleas, so that they don't pass on when they regurgitate the blood back into you, which is disgusting to say. But I found that that was super interesting, that since it got cooler in the areas where the plague existed, that helped it spread more, and then it spread to the Roman Empire, and then the Romans, sorry, I just absolutely smacked you guys with the microphone. But then the Romans spread that throughout Europe, right? So this was like the first instance of plague in Europe is after this catastrophe. And it's because this massive change in climate happened. So I think that's why this video was recommended to me, but it wasn't just like the plague spreading, or it was just these massive movements of people and them having to kind of rethink how they lived life. And I can't imagine how apocalyptic that must have seemed. And they actually did trace it back to the volcano Krakatoa. So they know this was a worldwide event because of written records, but also they took polar ice cap cores from the North Pole, not the North Pole, from the area of the Northern Pole and Antarctica, from the Arctic and Antarctic is what I'm trying to say. And they saw a huge sulfur spike around this point in history, or sulfuric acid, I think is what they saw of a spike. So that is present in volcanic ash. And I can only imagine how much ash that must have been. They give you a figure in these videos, but it's so astronomically much that like I can't fathom like what that would look like in my head. And it's just amazing that this one event could affect literally everyone on Earth. And back then, like, you don't know what's going on. They must have actually thought it was like the literal apocalypse, right? There's plague running rampant, like the sun's gone away, there's no summer that year, there's widespread famine. Like, I mean, it must have just been horribly terrifying. And there's a written record, I think they said in China, that they actually heard the sound of the explosion because a Chinese historian wrote down this like loud sound occurring. And that's not something that would normally be written down. Like, you're not like, oh, wow, there were some fireworks that went off or whatever. You know, it has to be pretty unusual to make it into written records back then, I feel like. Anyhow, sorry for rambling on about this. You guys are probably like, oh my gosh, get on with it. But I just thought that that was really interesting. So I listened to all 3 of those videos, and then I went back and I listened a little bit more closely to them. But it's just so fascinating to me how one event can change the lives of so many. And I am old enough where I remember in, when was it? I looked it up because I thought it was way more recent than it was. Oh, it was in 2010. There was a volcano in Iceland that erupted, and I think it stopped air travel for something weird, like 2 weeks or something, because of the amount of ash in the air. And, you know, a lot of Europeans were, oh my gosh, why are words so hard today? Were affected. That wasn't the word I was looking for, but it works. Were, you know, affected by this volcanic ash. And then I think about living in the Southeast. It's nothing like out in California, but we do have wildfires here that are generally in the mountains. And there are definitely days when we're under like smoke warnings because just the way the jet stream and the winds are going it just blows that smoke. And then just in my brain trying to wrap my head around how big of a fire that must be to be producing that much smoke, to be like creating a hazy, like unsafe breathing environment, you know, hundreds of miles away. It's just crazy to me. It really kind of puts in perspective the scale of the world, I guess. Anyhow, I guess I will move on from that topic and those wanderings. Oh, look, I'm actually vacuuming my bedroom. So I don't normally vacuum my bedroom just because there's a decent amount of furniture taking up space in here. And I just find it easier to sweep more often. Oh my gosh, I'm moving the dresser. I forgot I did this. I moved it and then I had to like dust behind it because there was so much dust. The dresser is on little feet with like carpet on the bottom so it doesn't scratch. But this dresser we actually got from like a vintage store. And my husband and I got this before was it before we were married? I think it was before we were married. Was it before we were engaged? I can't remember. But we bought this dresser from a vintage store. It's a Drexel dresser, I believe. And it's just really well made. And I think it was like $800 or something like that, which for that size of a furniture piece, I felt like was pretty good. Like even modern furniture, a dresser is generally going to be over $1,000 unless it's, you know, like a IKEA put together thing. But this thing is really solid. So I don't move it that often. It's very sturdy. It's just heavy, especially with all of our clothes on it. Not on it, they're in it. I was thinking of all the crap on top right now, which still hasn't been gone through. You can't tell I'm a little salty about that, can you? The piles of paper. I will say that we are very late in doing our taxes this year. I finally just put in my information for our taxes, and then my husband is going to put in his information, and then we'll go over it together and file, because we do file jointly. But we finally got around to it this year. Usually we have them done by like February because we do get a bit of a return each year. And it's like, so there's no reason for us to delay doing it because it's nice to have that money. If you saw it in the nursery there was actually bunk beds. That is not the arrangement that the room is in now. That was the bunk beds and the mattresses and the bedding came in earlier than we thought. And our daughter saw it and was so excited to get bunk beds. And so my husband had to put it up like that day. It was actually put up the night before. That's also why in that clip you did not see me changing the sheets at all in there. It's because those mattresses and sheets literally just got put in there like 12 hours before I was filming this. But the bed is actually in the other corner, so it's not blocking the closet door there. But at that point, we still had our son sleeping in the crib, and we waited until the weekend to transition him over to his big boy bed, which is the lower bunk, to see how he would do before taking the crib out of that room. So that room has been rearranged, but there's nothing on the walls yet, and we need to paint over some holes that we patched just from having other stuff hanging up in there. But here's me doing more laundry, yay. But I was pretty proud of myself. Other than the stuff that was hang drying, I did get all of this laundry folded and put up that day, which was super nice. In the background there, you can see that there's a big box of baby wipes that I moved out of the room because I had the intention of, after filming this, I was going to scan those. Each of those has a little code on it, and if you put it in the Pampers app, you get a little coupon, a digital coupon essentially, that can add up, and then you can put in your code to Amazon or wherever you're ordering the wipes from and get that amount of money off. So I needed to do that before I stored it, and I literally just did that last night, which was 3 days later, so I definitely did not get to that. All right, guys, we are more than halfway through here. Trying to think, what do I do after this? Oh, I attend to the dining table in the kitchen after this. Spoiler alert, that's what we're going to do next. And I realized in this, sometimes when you're looking at my back when I'm cleaning, you can see that the shirt says G-O-M-R, and I always read that as Gomer and then have a laugh at myself because it looks like it just says Gomer 18, which it does, but Gomer is in Gomer pile. Anyhow, that GOMR actually stands for Get Outside Mountain Relay, and it just happened in 2018, so that's what the Gomer 18 means, if you are at all interested. So here's me clearing off the table, and I had just brought this book out from my bedroom because I was feeling very ambitious, and I thought that I was going to be able to do a recipe from that cookbook, and it absolutely just went back into my bedroom. I was hoping to get to it today on the day that I'm doing this voiceover, but I don't know that I will get to it. So this is one of the things that I really try to do during the house reset is I try to dust the light fixtures and not just the stuff on the wall and whatnot, because those get forgotten a lot. And I think maybe you saw me doing the fan in the living room, but not the fans in the bedrooms. And that's because I had spot cleaned the fans in the bedrooms more recently. I think I had cleaned them like a day or two before because it was starting to get really hot out and we wanted to run the fans at night. So I didn't want them running with, you know, a month plus worth of dust on top of the fan blades. So that's why I skipped it in this. And this is me cleaning around the booster seats that are in here. I think the last time I did a house reset, we maybe still had the high chair up. Maybe not, maybe just it was more of the high chair in the chair, and then I figured out how to get the back of the high chair off so that it was a true booster seat. These angles are far away so that you kind of get an overview of what I'm doing and I don't have to keep moving the camera, because this type of cleaning, even though our house is smaller for an American home, it takes a long time to do this, and it takes even longer to set up the camera and to keep moving the camera around and making sure like what I'm cleaning is in the shot, essentially. So there are some things where I could have, like, I guess, gotten closer up shots for you guys to get a satisfying before and after. But from far away, it just kind of looks like I'm cleaning stuff that's clean. This is, in fact, not clean. I mean, you can tell how long I'm spending on cleaning these two chairs where my kids sit. And then, I don't know if I've already done it or not, but I like have to scrub a few spots on the table. And it's just completely stuck on food. And when I'm bending over and I'm getting the chair legs, I haven't attended to the chair legs for a while, and they just have like milk and food splattered all over the bottom of the chair legs. So those are the types of things that I don't normally get to in kind of my daily tidies and pickups or whatever. And here I'm cleaning food off the side of the pantry cabinet. And here I am just questioning life choices. I was actually standing there for a while. This is sped up about, I think I sped this up 4 times, so that was a much more of a significant pause than it looked in the sped up version. I was definitely at this point thinking, I really don't care to be doing this anymore. So at the beginning of the shot, you may have seen the vacuum cleaner sitting kind of next to the refrigerator on the left there, like just inside that part of the wall. And I was like, no, I'm not going to navigate the vacuum cleaner around this table. I'm just going to sweep like I normally do. And that is going to be good enough. But I think I do slow it down. Yeah, slow it down and be like, look at all of the food. For the most part, that was all food crumbs that I swept up. And that was, obviously it hasn't been a month since I've swept, but that's just kind of the amount of pile up of food that we tend to get. I think I slowed down the video much earlier when I was vacuuming the living room too, and it was just like, and there it is, a massive amount of dog hair, because that's where our dog normally hangs out, and he hangs out on the rug. And this was me opening the microwave to put our little like food cover back in there and being like, oh gosh, it's so dirty in here, so let me microwave a cup of water to get it loosened up and then scrub it down. I didn't actually spray cleaner in here. I find that if you just do the water, it generally cleans it up good enough. And then after this day, every time I've opened the microwave, I'm like, oh, the microwave is so clean. I feel like the microwave is one place where I just kind of ignore the mess a little bit and just like move on with my day. Whereas many other parts of the house, like I'm like, oh, like I can't chop food here because the countertop is dirty and I'm not going to put this cutting board on something dirty and then get like the feet or the backside of the cutting board all nasty. So I will clean the countertop before doing that. But with the microwave, I'm like, meh. Not quite certain why that is, but there it is. And then we are trying to cram as many things into this dishwasher as humanly possible. The top always fills up first because we have accumulated more kind of like plasticware for the kids' stuff. We do put their plastic plates and stuff on the bottom, and they seem to do okay there, but that top always gets full. This is me really not wanting to clean this microwave plate. That's the plate that rotates. I'm like, no, it's not gonna fit. The things that are dishwasher safe and don't fit in the dishwasher just is a special annoyance to me. All right, what are we doing now? Oh, we're starting on the hand wash dishes. Well, I'm cleaning the sink first. So this is what I'm talking about. Like if I'm hand washing dishes, but the sink is dirty, I'm not gonna wash the dishes. I'm gonna wait until the sink is clean. Because what's the point of cleaning? What I do is I clean the dishes on one side and then I put them in the other side so I can rinse a lot at the same time. So I don't waste quite so much water. So if I'm putting the clean dishes into a sink that's dirty on one side, it's just like, what was the point of cleaning them? To me, that's logical. Maybe it's not. Maybe that's just an excuse to not hand wash dishes. I think that was me skipping another ad. If there's any reason why I walk, or if there's any time when I walk towards the camera in this, and then just walk right back, that is me skipping an ad on YouTube. Because I was super invested in those videos, and the ads I get now are just crazy. There are a couple channels that I watch, and so like the history channels, and then there's like a military history channel that I watch, and another channel that's kind of it's a reaction channel but on military topics. So the ads I get are like for not Viagra, but whatever the current version, not the common version, the current version of Viagra is or whatever, because it thinks I'm an old white guy now because of my watching habits, I guess. That and cleaning videos are pretty much what I watch, which is maybe a little bit sad. I don't know. But the Google has not profiled me appropriately. So yeah, my ads are not what I want to be listening to. Not at all. That, although maybe it does know I'm a woman, because I also get a lot of like old person makeup ads. Like, don't use traditional makeup for your older skin. It just settles in your fine lines and wrinkles. Here is our new super whammadime magical makeup that's not going to make you look old when you use it. So also not the right person to market that to. Not because I don't have wrinkles, I definitely do, but I just generally don't wear makeup. If I'm going out somewhere special, I will put on some mascara. I think we did family pictures and I did wear some makeup for that. And I think the time before that I wore makeup was for my anniversary in last October when my husband and I went on like a full 24-hour overnight date together. So yeah, I don't need a foundation that's not going to settle into my fine lines and wrinkles because I don't wear a foundation. Do you guys have any ads that pop up that are just completely inappropriate for you? Skipping another ad. Oh, these are, I'm trying to figure out a space for these. They're called parfait, not as in a parfait glass like you serve parfaits in, but they're the canisters with the rubber seal and like the closure where it's like a loop over a hook and then you push down on the bottom part to actually seal it. That brand is called Parfait. There's a brand of that called Parfait, and my mom had bought it for a holiday project that she didn't end up using. And they're really nice canisters that I can see us using in the future, but we aren't using them now. And I had to find a space in our kitchen for them. So that's why I was opening random cabinets and stuff there. I did put them on the countertop because I was going to open them and wash them, and I was just like, nope, I'm just going to leave the paper stuff in these so that we can tell that they, in fact, have not been washed. And then when we use them, that will be the time to wash them because I'm really sick of washing dishes at this point. Oh, we must be getting towards the end because I'm washing the griddle. We use our electric griddle all the time. Do I need to get the baking soda this time? Yep. I put a more reasonable amount of baking soda on it this time than the last time I think you guys saw me wash this thing. The previous time I recorded and I was washing this, I think it had been a new box of baking soda and just so much of it came out that I was not expecting out of the box. All right, now we're on to doing the countertops, which means that we're almost done because usually this is like the second to last thing that I do, wiping off the surfaces. The surfaces. It's amazing how there's so many words that are close together in English. Well, I guess that's just a general language thing. We only have so many sounds, right? Y'all, I'm sorry, I'm so scattered during this voiceover. I hope that you are at least laughing at the ridiculousness. Oh, goodness. So now we're sweeping up all the stuff. I should maybe take that tape off the floor. I think I've explained that in a previous video, but if you're new here, if you can kind of see the painter's tape on the floor close to the stove, or the oven rather, we put that there when my daughter was young, and we told her that she had to stand behind that line so that she didn't get too close to the oven or to the range when it was on, so that she wouldn't burn herself. And it's just kind of stayed there since then. My son has zero respect for the line though, and my daughter's old enough now to like not touch it when it's on. She's learned that. So maybe I'll peel up that painter's tape. Part of it has disintegrated anyway. All right, I lied. I did not get all the laundry up. So the laundry that I just put in there, I actually this morning dumped out of the laundry basket onto my bed. So that sat in the dryer for the entire weekend because I'm recording this voiceover on Tuesday so that you guys can watch this video tomorrow on Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Happy hump day. And I filmed this on Friday because it just takes me a while to be able to get time to edit and do voiceover and that sort of thing. So I try to film it at least a little bit in advance. I guess that's kind of like Beth when she says that there are dishes in the sink, it doesn't count. When it's the last load and it's in the dryer, it doesn't count as not finishing the laundry. It can just sit in there until we need it. Beth from @FeralTradWife. If you haven't checked her out yet, go do it. She's freaking hilarious. She has a cleaning channel. I feel so silly saying that because I'm sure a decent portion of the people who have subscribed or who have watched me have seen me like on that channel, like when Beth does her lives and interacting. So yeah, it feels weird to like go check her out if you haven't. Like, of course these people know her. Like, she's a, you know, a successful YouTuber. All right, so this is the last room that I get to in this video. And if you can see the bath mat there is hanging up on the wall, that's because I had just cleaned the shower like a day or two before because my kids were super duper messy. So you'll only see me do like the top of, what's the part of the bathtub that comes up? I guess the top of the side of the bathtub, if we want to say that. You'll understand what I mean when you see it. But that's why I'm not scrubbing inside the shower tub combo area. I'm not sure why I feel the need to explain the things that I'm like, oh, I skipped this because of that, and I skipped this because of that. For the most part, y'all are like super, super kind and have not called me on, why do you do that way? Or you missed a spot or whatever. I think I've only gotten one comment that was like mildly negative. So that's nice. Maybe that's just because not very many people watch these. If you have made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching and making it this far with me. I appreciate your support. The best ways to support me is subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can see when my new content comes out. I am trying to grow the channel. Giving it a like, commenting down below is fantastic. I love talking to y'all and getting to know you a little bit. And I hope to do more of that in the future. I do try to respond to the comments, you know, within a decent amount of time. And I do respond to all of my comments, even the one that was not quite so supportive. I still responded and said thanks for the engagement, which was maybe a little saucy of me, but at this point I'm totally just like, I don't want to do this. Darn it, I have to clean this thing. I forgot to clean this thing because normally I would have cleaned this before the toilet, but such is life. Then after I clean that, I think all we have to do is sweep, which for some reason I didn't show you. I'll see you next time. Thanks.